Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. In this one I'll be talking about how Legion will be remembered as an expansion that saved World of Warcraft but also broke and shattered a ton of guilds, in particular guilds with a mythic rating ambition. This story is based on my personal experience. I myself have been playing World of Warcraft all the way back since the end of vanilla, and I always have been a competitive guy when it comes down to playing video games or just games in general. Having that urge to be competitive is probably thanks to the fact that I've always played sports at a high level. I was that kind of guy who hated losing and was always trying to improve himself whichever way he could, which most of the time came down to training and putting in the hours. So of course I applied this same philosophy and strategy when I started raiding in Burning Crusade. It took me quite some time before I finally got good enough to raid with the big boys, as I was only 16 back in the day. Wow, this is starting to sound like a story where somebody gets raped at the end. Long story short, I have cleared most of the raid content from Burning Crusade up until Wrath of Lich King. Only during Cataclysm and Mists I couldn't raid due to work. So during these expansions I pucked what I could in terms of PvE, but mainly focused on PvP. In World of Draenor I finally got back into some mythic raiding, but nothing major. It took almost up until the end of Nighthold, where I again started to take raiding a bit more serious. It's during this part of the expansion where it became clear that mythic raiding was resulting in quite some guilds disbanding. The reason was fairly simple: Emerald Nightmare's mythic difficulty was too undertuned, which resulted in overtuned bosses in Trial of Valor and Nighthold. I only started raiding with a real mythic guild in Tomb of Sargeras. Tomb of Sargeras. This is where I think almost half of the guilds that used to be in the top 20 of my server called it a day. I'm not joking when I'm telling you that I cycled through a total of 4 guilds during Tomb alone, of which at least 2 were in the top 10 of my server. Not because I wanted to switch guilds, but because all of these guilds disbanded, as most of them were stuck on Mythic Mistress and couldn't handle any more wipes. I did kill Mistress fairly early in the raid tier, but after doing so the guild was pretty burned out, because a big portion of the raiders had also endured through the entire length of Nighthold mythic raiding. During that time other guilds were disbanding as well, which resulted in a flood of people that were looking for a mythic raiding guild. So of course it became pretty hard for a lot of people to get into a guild that had the same or more progress than the ones they were in before. Especially for me, because besides Tomb, I hadn't really done any high-end mythic raiding during Legion. Most of you can probably guess what happened. Yes, I did get into another guild, but I had to redo the entire progress on Mythic Mistress again. This guild did endure, or so I thought. A couple of weeks ago, after killing Iminar on mythic difficulty, they also decided to call it a day. Again, I changed guilds, which means that over the course of only 7 months, I had to change guild 5 times because they quitted mythic raiding. No wonder a lot of people don't want to raid mythic anymore, as cycling through guilds is really tiresome because you'll always have to reintegrate yourself and play again with a bunch of new people, while at the same time proving yourself again and again to get a raid spot in a new guild that will most likely stop raiding or disband very soon. I didn't raid mythic for almost a month while I was searching for another guild, and I must say that I had more fun when I was playing WoW casually. Even more so, I never ever got the feeling that I was falling behind in terms of character progression, which is a weird feeling. When I was raiding back in Burning Crusade, I also played in one of the top guilds on the server. It's kind of funny and sad at the same time, but over the course of the entire expansion, which almost lasted 2 years, I was forced to change guilds only once because they disbanded. Taking a break from raiding back in the day did mean you probably were going to fall behind and most likely needed to do some catching up, which is definitely not the case right now. There are a lot of reasons why so many mythic guilds disbanded in Legion. Like I said in a lot of my previous videos, mythic raiding is fine for the achievement the first or even the second time that you kill a boss, but when combining hard punishing mechanics where a fuck up from a single person can wipe the entire raid group, with not really a sense of achievement throughout character progression and in terms of gear, thanks to war and especially Titanforging. Combine all of these factors and you'll have the perfect cocktail for a toxic environment where a lot of people don't really see the need and the reason to keep raiding mythic, as they are not that far ahead of people that only clear heroic, making all the time that you did spend raiding at the highest level feel like a waste of time. With the state of the game, it's entirely possible that somebody who didn't even put a single foot into mythic can have the same or even higher item level than the people that did dedicate their time to raid Mythic. I strongly believe that character progression is still one of the core features of World of Warcraft, so again, from the bottom of my heart, I do hope that Blizzard addresses the war Titanforging problem. Even today, when I was clearing normal and Taurus on one of my alts, somebody in the raid group got a Titanforged tier piece of a disgusting 975 item levels. On my main, I have heroic and mythic tier pieces, and none of them are item level 975. This might sound like elitism talking again, but I have always known that people were pushed into the higher difficulty of raiding because it rewarded the best gear. I myself am not even a hardcore raider, and I would have zero problems with gear being locked behind the highest difficulty. My opinion isn't always will be that the highest difficulty should reward the best gear. In general, this is better for the community, as good players will feel more rewarded by what they achieved in the game, and mediocre or even bad players will be pushed in becoming better if they want to get the best gear. I remember standing on the old auction house in Orgrimmar, looking and inspecting people that had tier 4 and thinking to myself, one day I'll be standing on the auction house with that kind of gear. A few patches later, I was standing on the auction house with full Black Temple tier 6 and I became the one that was being inspected. Not because I got lucky, but because I became better and worked towards reaching that goal. As long as Blizzard is making everything accessible for everybody, Mythic raiding will die a very slow and painful death. Personally, I still don't think that because you are paying subscription for a game, that you should automatically get access to every piece of content or gear for that matter. The problem is that we all became that special little snowflake, and I hope they step down from the pampering mentality and actually make us work towards a goal instead of throwing free loot across our faces. Even I would have zero problems if content or gear wouldn't be accessible for everyone. During the course of this expansion, I have never seen so many guilds calling it a day in terms of high-end raiding or simply disbanding. Legion will of course be the expansion that got World of Warcraft back on its feet, but also an expansion that broke a lot of mythic guilds. That's all for this video. Did you guys have the same raiding experience? Let me know in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up and of course don't forget to subscribe. My goal is to upload at least 2 videos a week. Hopefully more content will be coming soon. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.